As college athletics continue to shift under the weight of NIL and the transfer portal, agents have become an essential part of the decision making process. I sat down with NFL certified agent and USC alumni Chris Gil to break down how the system works from the inside. Give it a look. Thank you for tuning in today. I am joined by Christopher Gill, a NFL agent who also working in the new age of NIL. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic. You're a USC alumni. You studied sociology and sports business while you were here. When you first came to USC, what did you envision your career looking like?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I was here at USC, feels like it was forever long ago. I feel I feel old coming here when I graduated in 2020. It's been 6 years since the pandemic since I graduated. But yeah, when I was here, I was very involved in the USC Sports Business Association Club. I had my major in sociology and I got my minor in sports media. Took a bit of a non-traditional route to where I am today. So my very first job in sports was working for the LA Kings. I was doing like 50-50 community relations type stuff with them. And I had also gotten my first internship with a guy named Joe Barquette, who still continues to mentor me to this day. So one of Joe's first big name clients was Austin Eckler, out of Colorado State, and he came to Jeffrey Fellinger's class, and I spoke to him, and gave him my first actual like role in football. So I worked for him for a couple months, and then I transitioned out of that, and then I got another internship with another NFL sports attorney named Samuel Katz. So Sam was not a sports agent, but what he did do is he helped players get their disability benefits, right? These NFL players are disability benefits. So whether it's TMP, neurocog, the list goes on and on. And he found a very specific niche that not a lot of people had tapped into yet. So that was great in the sense that it taught me about something that I didn't know about that was previously afforded to players under their rights when their playing career is over. And that has actually helped me so much today when I recruit players. I can paint them the picture obviously now when they play in the NFL and what their life is going to look like after, right? And I get told a lot, wow, Chris, you know a lot about the disability benefits that are afforded to me. And I said, yeah, because I agent for an agent that's exclusively what he focused on, and I can rest assured, give them some assurance that when that time comes, they're going to be in good hands, whether it's with me or with Sam when their playing career is over.
So and then so then transition back to you have those two internships.
Yes.
After that, did you see yourself becoming an agent, or where was your head at?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a difficult time here during the pandemic. I know I wanted to work in sports and in football in some capacity. And then working with Joe and Sam really kind of further solidified me wanting to be an agent. But like I mentioned, it was a little bit of a difficult time because I wanted to go to law school. I thought I was going to go to law school. I thought I was going to work for Sam or for Joe and be an agent. I just didn't want to do it in the sense during that time just because it was a pandemic. There was a lot of closures, and specifically here at USC we had online learning, and I knew that if I wanted to be a lawyer, I should be held accountable, and I had to be in person for that. So took some time off and started the agency, and actually ended up at Loyola Marymount where I got my master's in business management, and that was a phenomenal decision, and I'm glad I did that.
You mentioned starting an agency. Can you just talk about what that was like in the specific agency?
Sure, yeah. So my company's name is Optimal Sports Management, and I founded the firm in July 1st of 2021, right when NIL began. So I can tell people here that I've been a pioneer since it started. And yeah, I've been very fortunate to represent some really good players in high school and college and in the NFL. And above that, they're great players on the field, but even better young men off the field.
That's great. You mentioned being a pioneer in the world of NIL. Was there like a specific turning point that kind of pushed you down this route?
Yeah, so I mean, I wasn't certified with the NFL. Like I mentioned, when I started doing the NIL stuff, it's a way to get clients, right? It's a way to get players and to build up the agency. So I envisioned myself starting with NIL, and like I said, this is a relationship-driven industry, right? You got to go out there and put a good service out to these players and keep a good relationship with them. Where it's like if you've done enough for them in the NIL sphere in high school, college, and you're a certified NFL agent, then there's no reason for them to leave you. right? But yeah, the NIL is definitely an important aspect for all, not even for my agency now, but for every agency. Every agency now is transitioning to NIL because you want to get the best prospects as young as possible and go out there and do a good job for them. Because if you don't, you run the risk of losing them in the future, and that's why you see a lot of the bigger agencies now kind of catching up.
Yeah, you mentioned working with younger prospects. How do you balance trying to grow their brand and also their role as an athlete?
Yeah, I think it's important for every athlete to build their brand, right? Whether it's through social media, whether it's on the field. And one thing that I tell my guys a lot is being able to go out there and engage with your followers, engage with your fan base, right? Whether it's after a big game, you post a picture or if fans are commenting on your stuff, just, like the post or like their comment or engage with them. I promise you, I tell my players, I promise you it's going to make their day a lot because they see things like that, right? They see you on the field on Saturday making these game-changing plays, but they don't know who you are behind the scenes. So you liking one of their comments shows them like, wow, like I actually value my fans. That's how you grow your fan base. You go out, you have events, whether it's like a charity event, whether it's like a youth clinic or a camp. It shows that you're invested in your fan base, and they're going to be invested in you because without the fans, without the team, the player is just he's just a player.
Oh, of course. And go back to the NIL side of things. When it first became legal, did you have a vision for how NIL would play out, or did anything happen that challenges
Well, I
those
mean,
expectations?
it was always the wild, wild west. I mean, there was like just, a lot of money involved, and I think back in the day there was kind of a stigma around the C word, the collective, right? The collective was kind of an unknown. Nobody really talked about it, but now you see more and more collectives are being formed, and it really kind of starts with like the institution, right? You see a lot of the first collectives that were formed were a lot of the big powerhouse SEC schools, right? They have a big alumni base and they got a big program. They're blue blood programs, and they needed to go out there and, and attract the top talent. Now, pretty much every school has a collective. Whether you're a big FBS school or you're an FCS school like a Montana State, everybody's got a collective now. If you want to be successful, you need a collective, and with the collective, it's you need a general manager and a good general manager to make you stand out.
Oh, definitely. And aside from that, I mean, now you have Phil Knight fund in Oregon, you have an
Yeah.
oil baron fund in Texas Tech. But more about the athlete side of things. What are like the biggest misconceptions that athletes have about NIL?
Yeah, I think one of the main ones is that they think that we can get them a brand deal with anybody when they haven't built up that social media following or they haven't, produced on the field. And I think it's a big misconception. A lot of these athletes kind of just sometimes want to go out and get a bag, right? Like, oh, I want to get a bag, right? But it takes a lot more than that, right? I tell my athletes all the time, you help me build a brand in several different ways. The first one is you can go out there and you can do what you need to do on the field. Go out there and light it up. I specifically tell my guys, go out on Sports Center and make some top plays. That'll help me. That'll give me some leverage. Or you can just build a brand right through social media, a variety of marketing deals, whether it's free product deals, also known as seeding deals. Right? No one's gonna know that it's a seeding deal, right? But it gives you product in your hands. We create some good content. We get some good engagement rates, and eventually, right, the brand is going to say, you know what, we really like his content. Let's start paying him, whether it's 100, 500, 1,000, whatever. And I use that to say that the more and more brand deals you get, it's like a resume, right? The more and more companies see it, they're gonna say, "What am I missing out on here? Let's get on this kid or on this athlete," right? So like I tell my athletes, the more and more stuff that you want to do, the better. Or the last alternative is you do it both ways. You play at a high level on the field and you build a brand off the field. Usually athletes do one or the other, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. And how do you determine when an NIL deal coincides with an athlete's like long-term professional goals?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the main things that we do with our guys is we sit down, we have initial discovery calls and see what the athlete likes, whether it's health and wellness, whether he likes video games, whether he likes trading cards, whether he likes, karaoke. And we go out and we already have some, like, for example, like with trading card companies, right? We worked with Leaf Trading Cards a while back when they were working with high school athletes, and we've gotten, a lot of our clients trading card deals. Whether they're into health and wellness, whether they're into, healthy living. We have some pre-existing relationships with these companies. We'll go out them and get them some free stuff or, a paid deal. I think one of the best ones that we recently got was for our receiver from Cal, Jacob DeJesus. And Jacob is a big fan of Raising Canes. So when Raising Canes came to me in October and said they wanted to work with them, I was more happy than Jacob because I was like, this is a big brand. And I'm glad that we got that deal done with them. And it was more for the fact that Jacob enjoyed the food, and he had that's one of his that was one of his huge like accomplishments is getting an NIL deal with Raising Cane's, like, and that made him so happy, and it made me happy too.
Oh, that's amazing. And I mean, in your experience, I mean, that kind of made Jake an entrepreneur. You're working with 18 to 22-year-olds. How prepared do you think they are in handling the entrepreneurship that comes with NIL on top of being a student athlete?
Yeah, it's a little hard for them sometimes. I mean, shoot, a lot of these, athletes are getting paid a lot of money from these schools and the collective, and this is the first time they're exposed to big money like that. And I think it's important that they understand the value of money, right? They have good parents, they have good family, they have a good agent like me that can mentor them on, how to spend that money, how to invest it. And just because you have money doesn't mean you should be going out there and blowing it.
Definitely, and I mean, obviously, you're working with young adults who have active family in their life. How involved are families in the NIL and transfer decisions, and
Yeah.
what role do you believe they should play?
Yeah, absolutely. Like for example, what the client wants, what he's gonna want. Obviously, my job as an agent is to present all the options to him. Right, I give him the pros and cons of whether to enter the transfer portal or not. Right, whether they're interested in 4 or 8 or 12 year whatever it may be. I give them the pros and cons of each. I never go out there and tell my player or choose for them. Hey, go to this school because they're gonna pay us the most, or go to this school because of this reason. I certainly don't do that. But what I do is I lay out the facts for them and make them choose. I make them decide where they want to go, because I don't want later on for them to say, "Hey, Chris, you sent me to this school and it didn't work out. I'm blaming you for it." So my players can't come back and say later on like, "Oh, like he chose this school for me and I didn't like it." I let them formulate their own opinion, and just present the facts to them
Oh,
in every
that's a
opportunity.
tough decision to make.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to like advise a player against like a financial opportunity with NIL or transferring like that?
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time, specifically with the transfer portal. I think there's a big misconception where, players think they can just enter the transfer portal and have a home, and it certainly doesn't work like that. I like to tell my athletes, you shouldn't have a home before we even hit the portal, because there's a lot of players that enter the portal and are still there and they're not going to get picked up.
They're still there.
They're still there. I think there's been over 10,000 athletes that enter the portal, and not all of them have found a home, and they won't. A lot of these athletes are gonna have to go to the JUCO level to play for a bit. Might have to sit out. Like, it's very hitting the transfer portal is a very important decision, and athletes should be well versed in the pros of it and the cons of it. Right? You kind of see it all the time where a lot of these small name players, right? I'll give you a perfect example. Danny Scudero, right? He was a receiver at Sacramento State, had a big year there, moved up from Sacramento State to San Jose State, had another big year, and now he's at Colorado. That is a perfect example of how the transfer portal for a player like that should work. Right, whether he was, lightly recruited at a high school and that was his best opportunity, he maximized his opportunity at every level. Sac State, San Jose State, and now he finds himself at Colorado. Right, so you see that a lot. Players from smaller name schools getting the volume, getting the film to be able to move to the top. You also see a lot of players that are, at a USC, UCLA, a big, Power Four school, and they're not playing and they don't have the volume. And they want to play, so they got to go to a smaller school like a Mountain West, like a San Diego State, Fresno State, wherever it may be, so they can get the volume there and end up coming back to a bigger name school. So that's how it should work in theory. But you also see some bigger name players like Darian Mensa and a lot of these big name guys that want to go out there and kind of test the water a little bit, and kind of they find themselves in some trouble sometimes.
Yeah, I love that you brought up Darian Mensa. I mean, his essentially divorce from Duke, I mean, was pretty messy. They put a temporary restraining order on him and then finally let him go, and now he's at
Yeah.
Miami. How has the transfer portal changed the way athletes approach NIL and their brand strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the transfer portal now, it's about the opportunity to go out there and play, and I think a lot of athletes are wanting that now, right? Obviously, they want to go out there and play and get the. And to some guys aren't really looking for big collective deals. They just want to play right away. Where some guys are kind of going out there and looking for the biggest contract possible. But I think you kind of have to balance out both the short term and long term. Effects of this, right? If you want to go to the NFL, you got to go out there and get the volume and get the film. Long term, if it can just vary. So
And then, yeah, more about the specific athlete side. Everyone is kind of up in arms about the Darian Mensa situation, but
yeah,
and we also have like oil barons funding Texas Tech. So
yeah.
who has like the most leverage in the transfer portal? Is it the athlete? Is it the program? Or is it these collectives funding it?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I think, The school has leverage because they're the one that has the money to give out, but I think the athlete has a little bit more leverage because if he's a big name player, he can just go out there and get offers from a bunch of other schools, and you're competing for his services at the end of the day. And for example, I'm sure Texas Tech wouldn't want to lose out to a big name player to their rival. To Texas A&M or to Texas, so they kind of drive their market up a little bit, right? So I definitely think everybody has leverage, but I think at the end of the day, the athlete that has the volume, that has that elite skill set, has the most leverage.
Oh man, you heard it here first. About the portal, it often, I mean, it closes quickly. We have short windows. Do you think the current system allows enough time and protection for the families and athletes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually really like that there were two transfer portal periods. Obviously, one in January and then one in the spring. It kind of allow players to see if this is what they really want. Getting acclimated to both the academics of the school and obviously to their life in football. Um, I'm a big proponent of having two windows as opposed to one. But that's just a new rule the NCAA chose, so we got to respect it.
Wait, it was a new rule that they turned it to one window. I thought
Yeah,
it was two,
it's one window now. It's just in January, if I'm not mistaken.
just in
It's
January, and it already
yes,
closed.
it's already closed. Yes.
So the opportunity's
So
gone.
yeah, well, as long as you're in the transfer portal before it closes, you're fine. There's a common misconception that if you don't find a home by then, you're in trouble. No, as long as you enter your name in the transfer portal before it closes, you're fine. Right? You can still, move around, but it's for athletes that try to get in once it's closed.
So
That
if you're in the portal, you're good. You have
if
time.
you're in, you're in. If you're not, well, you're in some tough waters.
So that could be the answer to my next question, which is if you could implement like one more safeguard or to protect athletes and their families
Sure.
in the portal or NIL, what would it be?
Yeah, I think there should be more regulation when it comes to agents in the industry. Just for the fact, like for example, me, I mean, I started off just doing solely NIL, and I got certified with the NFLPA, and they certainly have me under a microscope, and that's why I take my job very seriously here. But what you see a lot is, a lot of agents that don't work in a fiduciary capacity. So for those that aren't familiar with fiduciary capacity, means I work what's in the best interest of the player, right? A lot of agents are kind of just getting the top guys, or trying to get some of these guys and make a quick buck off them and send them to a situation that doesn't align with them, both academically, personally, or relating to football. They just want to go out there and make some money off these guys. So I think there should be some more regulations when it comes to agents getting certified. I'm not saying get certified like the NFL, but just a course, doing some background checks and seeing who really is who and they're saying what they're saying they are. Because there's a lot of people in this industry that are out there doing some bad things and getting players in bad situations, giving bad advice, and agents like me got to come and get them out of it.
So that's your ideal safeguard to be put into place. But realistically, 5 years down the line, transfer portal, NIL rampant. Where do you see like the changes happening? Where is that going?
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many changes that happen every year. I mean, there's obviously now the salary caps and the transfer portal windows, and I still remember back in the day, you had to sit out a year if you transferred to school. So we've definitely come a long way from that, and I'm excited to see the new changes that happen. I hope it's for the betterment of obviously the player and the institution he's going to be at, because at the end of the day, these are young kids. These are young kids, and at the end of the day, they're also students. They're coming out here to get a valuable education and also play the game at a high level, and in hopes of getting them ready for the NFL. And the more important thing is life after the NFL is very important as well, because the average playing career is only 3.5 years. That's just enough to get them their credited seasons for their 401k, for their retirement, for their medical and dental benefits for their family. And for some athletes, it's hard, and that's why it's important to get the education at the universities that they're at.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, and especially with your experience covering NFL benefits for athletes after their career. How does that kind of merge with your current opportunity as an agent?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, all my clients want to play in the NFL, but I'm very realistic with them where I say the NFL stands for not for long, which I mentioned. The average playing career is 3.5 years, right? Which is barely enough to get your credited season for your salary, for your 401k, for your benefits and all that fun stuff. So I try to guide my athletes in the best direction for them not only playing, but for life after football, right? Whether it's, some guys that go three and out, depending on how many credit seasons you have, the NFL and NFLP will give you money to go back to school, right? To finish your degree. Or if you want to get a master's degree, that opportunity is there, right? There's money, the NFL gives players money depending on how many credit seasons they have to buy annuities, right? So their long-term financial success is important. There's a lot of benefits in there that not a lot of players know, right? That know about. So for agents like me, it's important to go out there and explain to them, I want you to go out there and play this game at a high level for 10, 20 years, but there'll be a point where you might not be able to do it forever. So let's, think about this long term. Obviously, what we want you to be successful now and in the future.
That's a great answer. And then zooming out more about your personal goals, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, and what do you want to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to continue putting out a good service for my athletes. I want to be a mentor to them and guide them through difficult times of their life, and certainly your really good times in their life, right? I got in the industry to make a difference and how to help these athletes grow not only on the field but off it. In 5 years, I'd like to see myself grow in the agency. And one thing that I really want to get into is women's sports. I want to get into women's flag football because I think that's going to be another big milestone in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, you were right about NIL. I hope you're right about flag football because
Yeah,
that's really cool. But
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, guys, please check out Chris Gill's Optimal Sports Agency online. Check out the athletes he represents and get involved. And Chris, as always, thank you again for your time.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to always come back to USC and fight on.
Fight on. While the use of NIL has sparked controversy, voices like Gill's help explain the systems behind the decisions and the stakes that come with them. Reporting for USC, I'm Dylan Brazier.